works so you can play.
Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com with Ash from MiniWarGaming.com. Is that how you introduce yourself? How do you normally
My name's Ash. I just usually call myself Ash.
When you say...
Hey, it's Ash here from MiniWarGaming.com. I don't know. I don't think about it.
That's as boring as mine.
I don't think about it. I just go. There's not a lot of planning in my videos.
Yeah. Touche. And welcome to a rules debate video. This is just going to be a one-off video because there's a discussion that came up because of the new Maliceptor. And it's a discussion that's been around for a while. I've actually done lots of research on it and seen it on Daka and Warshare. And it's a very heated discussion on whether a Witchfire psychic power that does not have a weapons profile, such as Psychic Shriek or the new Maliceptor's Psychic Overload, has to roll to hit before resolving the power. And so we are going to debate this for the next few minutes, and then we want to open the floor to you to continue the debate because it's so hotly contested that I can actually say that there's no one consensus out there. And I can say that because of how much it goes back and forth. There might be certain consensus in your area.
There's two sides of it. There's the right side and the wrong side.
And I'm going to be playing the side that says no, you do not have to roll to hit because, well, I might have a bit more interest in that because it makes the Maliceptor actually useful rather than totally useless, having to roll to hit.
There's nothing in it for him at all.
Nothing. No, exactly. Ash is going to play the yes side. So we're going to do this like a true debate where we're both going to actually debate our side. We're not going to convince each other by either way because in the end we'll make a house rule of how it works and we'll just kind of go with that. And we'll just kind of go from there. You, at the end of this video, if you can please... Either you can talk about it in the YouTube comments or the MiniWarGaming comments, but I'd really like you to do is click on the link in the video description, which goes to a topic on our forum where there's actually a poll, and you can vote in that poll. And there's 3 answers. It's yes, no, and yes, but if you miss it, doesn't do anything. We're not even going to really discuss.
That doesn't even make sense. Yes, there's this thing you have to do, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't actually do anything. Well, the reason I put that one in there is because I've read through a lot of discussions, and that's actually some of the arguments that people have. Yeah, we're not going to discuss that one. We're not going to have that third person in the middle who's like, I agree with both of you.
Right.
Nobody likes.
No grays in this one. There's only black and white. There is no gray.
That's right. So let's start. Actually, let's start with your side.
Okay.
Because yours is pretty easy to start off with, and then we're going to go back and forth in a gentlemanly fashion. No punches will be thrown, right?
Sure.
I think he'd win in that one.
Not what he told me. When he sat me down, that was not what he said at all.
Exactly.
All right, so we're gonna get started.
Yeah,
I get to hold the microphone.
You start on your side.
All right.
We got our rule books handy.
We do. Yeah, we actually have our iPads with the rule books on here. So as sort of like the local Games Workshop shill, I got picked to be the rules as written guy in this debate. And actually, that's not kind of far off for me. Because the basic premise of Witchfire powers, and it says that many of them have weapon profiles, so that explain things like assault or heavy or what their values are. Not all of them do, but it is unilaterally clear that no matter what type of Witchfire power is, it has to roll to hit. Therein ends the debate. So if something basically at the end of this premise, and I could say this over and over again, I don't really want to though, because rules as written, it is black and white, cut and dry, under the header for Witchfire powers, that for no gray area of interpretation, you have to roll to hit with a Witchfire power. Does that make sense when there isn't a accompanying profile to tell you if it's assault or if it's heavy or if it's blast or whatever? Not necessarily. But it doesn't change the fact that it's right there in print, black and white, saying you have to roll to hit. There is no room for interpretation there. There is no gray area. It's written. Those words are said. Now, that being said, could it be written better? Yes, absolutely. And as a case in point here, what I will give you is the differences between the Tau Empire Codex and the 6th edition Tau Codex. Marker lights previously had no weapon profile. They simply had a range and the effect for markers hitting. And what that causes a great deal of debate. Could you take a cover save against a marker light? How could you potentially stop it? How did it interact with all the other rules for shooting? And what they did was later on, when they cleaned up the rules and introduced a new codex, they introduced a profile, which actually said it is strength dash, AP dash, 36-inch range, heavy, and creates a targeting effect when you hit somebody with it. So that's my that's my basis of this argument. It says you have to, yes. Is that entry potentially missing something that could make it far less debatable and far more cut and dry as to whether or not you need to roll to hit? Absolutely it could. But it doesn't change the fact that in black and white, in print, under Witchfires, it says every Witchfire power has to roll to hit.
Thank you, Ash. I disagree, because there's a few other things I want to point out here. It does say it needs to roll to hit unless it's a blast or template, so we do need to point that out. But that would be specified. Yeah, I use the blast and template rules. And it also says if it has a subtype, it says they can make snapshots. Yeah, and it says there are several different subtypes of Witchfire, each applying slightly different targeting restrictions. If the Witchfire does not list a subtype or simply describes itself as a psychic shooting attack, use the rules given above to resolve it. If it has one of the following subtypes, use the rule for that subtype. And we have beams and novas who automatically hit, but then Witchfires and focus Witchfires don't give that exception. However, we run into a major area, which I will now argue the rules as intended and how they're supposed to be used. Rules as intended is always a gray area, but it's sometimes right, because FAQs come out later on that show that rules is intended. Hey, my turn. Shh, stop talking. So the rules as intended. Here's what I interpret the rules as intended to be that no, you do not have to make a to hit roll. And I'm not just going to say I think it shouldn't have been that. I'd actually have reasons for it. If we look under the shooting attacks, so we go back to the shooting phase, okay? In the shooting phase, it talks about using your weapon, blah, blah, blah. And here's moving and shooting. Whether a model has moved or not can make a big difference to its ability to fire. Okay, this is one of the main arguments. Some guns are so heavy, blah de blah de blah. This is all fluff, fluff, fluff. This is explained in more detail in the weapons section. The most important thing to remember is that the effect movement has on shooting is applied on a model by model basis. Now, psychic shooting attacks or Witchfire powers follow the rules for shooting. They specifically said that they have to have line of sight. They can't be locked in combat, and cover saves and all that still can be taken unless it specifies otherwise. But that's obvious. So we go to the weapons section. Under weapon profiles, it says every weapon has a profile. Now, I know this isn't a weapon. This is a psychic shooting attack or a Witchfire power, but this is the rules for how to fire. So we have under a weapon profile, you have your turn. You have your turn. You have your range, strength, AP, and type. Now, range, strength, and AP, like, I don't think we're arguing how the power is done. We know that a Psychic Shriek, for example, you roll 3d6, subtract the leadership, and that's how many wounds they take. Specifically says no armor or cover saves allowed. So there's no argument there. You take from the nearest model. It says all of that. That's not the argument here. So we go under type. And it says, a shooting weapon always has one of the following types: assault, bomb, heavy, ordnance, pistol, primary weapon, rapid fire, or salvo. Now, here's the important part. I realize, once again, this is the Witchfire power, not a weapon. But which of those profiles do you use when it doesn't specify it? The reason this is incredibly important is because if the Psyker moved and then fires this Witchfire power, if it was a heavy weapon, they'd have to snapfire, unless they have Relentless. But let's assume that they're just a regular guy, just a regular librarian in power armor. And he moves and he wants to fire Psychic Shriek. And if it was a heavy weapon, he'd have to snapfire. If it was an ordnance weapon, he'd have to snapfire. If it was rapid fire, he could do it twice if he was in at half the range, right? So he could roll 2 dice and say, oh, it applies twice. If it was a salvo, then he gets a certain number of shots if he stays still, and he gets less if he moves, and it becomes half range. And of course, what everybody's assuming when they say that has to roll to hit is that it's an assault 1 weapon, and that it doesn't affect anything. Because every psychic, I looked at it, at least from what I could see, every psychic shooting attack, every Witchfire power that has a profile, they are all assault weapons. They are all assault weapons. And so we take for granted that it doesn't affect movement, and it doesn't affect charging, and it doesn't affect anything else like that, because everyone that has a profile is an assault weapon. It specifically says that. And so everybody's just saying, well, that must mean that these are assault. Well, why? Why does it have to be the case? It doesn't specifically say that. And because it doesn't specifically say that, we don't know its restrictions. We don't even know the number of shots to take. Like, do you take 1 shot to hit? It doesn't say it's assault 1 or heavy 1 or 1 shot. Do you do the 3d6 minus a leadership? And then however you made it, how many you made it there, you roll to hit, and then you apply that many wounds? Or, like, I would say that if you're going to argue rules as written, there is no rule written that tells you how many rolls to make for the to hit. And that is where I say rules is intended, that they never intended for you to roll to hit. Because if they did, they would have made it clear. Like the marker light scenario. They actually updated that and said, okay, we saw that there was confusion. We always intended people to roll to hit. So now we will update that and make it heavy. Whereas from 6th to 7th edition, they never did that. They just kept it as Witchfire powers with that range, and here's the result. And so that is my main argument for it. And actually the main argument for a lot of people who argue against it is that, yes, rules as written says they must roll to hit, but when you look at it, there's no way to do it. Like, what rule are you going to make up so that you know how many shots and what restrictions those shots have in order to hit? And I say, since you can't make those up, you can't argue that the rules as written actually says that you have to roll to hit. And it becomes an ambiguity area, and then it becomes a what did they intend? And I feel that they intended you not to have to roll to hit. So that is my argument against it.
All right. Thank you to my esteemed colleague from Welland for his excellent points about weapons, not psychic powers. And the intentions, the psychic intentions of the game designers. Again, not written here in the rules. So I'm just going to come back to one other point from the Witchfire entry. It says there are several different subtypes of Witchfire, each applying slightly different targeting restrictions. If the Witchfire does not list a subtype or simply describes itself as a psychic shooting attack, use the rules above given to resolve it. So you roll to hit. Now, roll there isn't plural. It doesn't say make rolls to hit. It just says roll to hit. So I would take a dice. I would look at the ballistic skill of the model, and then I would follow the to hit table. That's what's written down in this book. So, not consulting the weapons section, which psychic powers aren't. They're psychic powers, not weapons. I would just simply follow the entry that's in there. Now again, is this the rule that was intended by the game designers? No. But we live in a world of black and white, ones and zeros, where I can only follow the rules written in the book. And the rules written in the book, once again, say, if it's not specified as a specific type of psychic attack, follow the rules above. And the rules above say, roll to hit.
Thank you very much. And I think my side has been adequately stated, and so has Ash's side. And so it's up to you guys. What do you think is the answer? So let's start a nice heated debate, and I'll be kind about it, and nobody call each other names, because obviously both sides have a very strong point.
Mine's written down.
You've already made your point. All right. If I can add one more, Games Workshop is not known for making airtight rules. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have fun discussions like this. So go ahead, leave your opinion below in the YouTube comments, MiniWarGaming comments, but what I really want you to do, after you've done all that, because please use those comment areas, is to click the link in the video description, which will lead you to the forum post on MiniWarGaming, where there's a poll. Because I'm going to actually possibly use that poll to determine our house rule for it. Is our house rule going to be that we have to roll to hit or not roll to hit? And it really, 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 really changes the effectiveness of these powers. So it's a big house rule. And I don't want to just blanket say, yeah, I want to do it in my favor. I want to see what the community thinks before I make that decision. So go ahead, leave a comment, click the link in the video description below, add your voice to the discussion.
Team Raw! Team Raw!
Team Raw!
Team Raw!
Team Rye! Team Rye!
Team Raw! We should get t-shirts. Team Raw, Team Rye.
That is actually, that would be kind of funny. So thank you very much for watching. Go ahead, click the link below, and happy wargaming. Yeah. So